Hello, Fox News and their sources, they're making theories and they're making conspiracy theories, but and their roles pretending framing others for stealing our identities with CBS, WFSB, and Fox Connecticut News has roles with former director of the FBI Robert Luskin, with WFSB attached to fake conversations with themselves and with others, also with the sources of themselves in Fox Connecticut News and of WTNH. There's a Roger Suzanne who apparently pretended he had conversations with me. And see, they also have people with their intelligence at their locations and next to them, directing the people that to speak fake things and to ask questions where they know they're guilty, and they're trying to make fake examples of free speech and freedom of the press as also being used to measure and maintain sense and sensibility used by the foreign bodies, recorded time collusions with them before that. In other words, there are a whole bunch of victim predators not allowing mandated law to be followed because they already had even the interbranch at the same time with the overt criminal enterprise, the private ones, terrorists, originally and still. When did that stop being used to screen what the witch trials are about? While slavery was entrenched, northern colonies, southern colonies, through the same method that had been sustained and is still being sustained against all natures of differences, like Native American, like the different countries involved with that, and with the breaching method that kept that, even those countries individually grouped in together too, themselves tortured, extorted, and in fact humiliated, enslaved. We are in a semi-ancient trap that knew that names XYZ could only be operated by locations, areas, and states, and they can force, trick, hurt, and persuade operations of those names roles to hurt each other syntactically, wrongly, because in trying to defend themselves from what a breaching method did specifically to have that, and to have people counter that too syntactically, therefore physically leaving itself what it did to keep that going out and replacing nature's demonstrations of that too, because it knew nature would demonstrate that and made them self-valued roles with that. And it perfected that method, it propagated that way. More and more self-cultivated roles without anyone realizing. More and more names of the people of the sciences incapable of affording anyone, not even their own, to use short words properly about what nature is actually capable of demonstrating to anyone. See, we have the natures of expertise, and the fact that just something is researched or not, with criminally foreign influence, tactical delusions, raw uses of that difference. We have black people's whites of eyes to be able to discern criminally foreign influence, tactical delusions, raw readings of statutes regarding things like color, things like slavery. See, but everyone's missing it because our founders' communications were all replaced, and regarding how they did not and why they did not have free speech. For example, one of the reasons why is because of human fact human nature breaching method and rolls with it as a whole bunch of methods had been sustained since before modern religious messengers, and been sustained northern colonies, southern colonies, and then America's founders were born to get behind James Madison and his plan. The various ways, and with nature too, demonstrating to us that colonists and that Native Americans were our part of that group of colonists, plural, that directed us to refer to him and his plan as James Madison, singular themselves, our founders. And so we could not miss what we are forced to miss. How they went with George Washington's plan to counter restore George Washington. I mean, James Madison's plan to counter restore George Washington, and to get him to help to use that plan, he agreed, and they went and got the rest of the founders and the rest of the presidents counter extorted too, forced to get everyone told to get the Constitution unabridged, and why and how we have rights that are too numerous to list, let alone while there are witch trials entrenched. specifically as collusion/S with that difference is racketeering method used to measure, maintain roles, blaming other things. Excuse me, others, ourselves, for the real reasons why everyone has been systems tactiliterian from one that communicates with black people's rights of eyes. There are all kinds of hyper evidential proofs, evidences. Why and how we've had black people's rights of eyes, but it has been left out from the breaching method, from where and how the breaching method reassigned black and white, and then America's founders were born. This is not clear with Americans, not because they didn't do their homework, and not because the value of homework was valued legitimately by the campuses. Not one campus has valued the value of your homework legitimately. The differences of the best campus and the worst campus is also used. They have self-valued roles with that too. Self-valued, because that's all that has been known, right? We guys are victims/hyper victims and not self-valuing too. The difference of that's used to screen the breaching method. That has you guys, A through Z, the names of people, science, everyone else, including journalism. I'm not a journalist. It's recorded various ways. Journalism have been collusions with wire crime action methods, identity theft, fraud, slanders, on a mass scale, changing and faking details, and screening the names, other names of awful crime scenes, and mass communication racketeering worse than war crimes, and roles playing games with he said, she said with their questions, on a mass scale, no due process, legitimately capable of the names with the interbranch and the judicial branch offices and corrections offices of Connecticut, increasingly involved with Washington, D.C., and with New York, with interbranch, all kinds of natures of organized crimes associated with medicines corruption and other natures of organized crimes are the ones with that, with badges too. They're kids they have involved with predicate acts methods. And next to all kinds, they have overt criminal enterprises, private ones, whole bunch of psychos, and people that all kinds of natures of people tied to campuses, including fire campuses. Their family members run in with mental health problems, to hide live regressions with their doctors, and to be fake sides of issues. Increasingly, people tied to my area, involved with some wire crimes and Wethersfield police refusing to identify themselves legitimately, switching names and forging names, and proven child abusers, leaders of kids years apart. More people with the name Cololo and Scalora, them and their sources. People are writing forensics too. With Joshua Julian is also one of the people recorded with digital crimes with the Facebook pages of the campuses. They're faking passions, emotions about what they like or don't like on campuses because they have whole roles with sick things. Organized crimes on campuses, identity theft, fraud, slanders, all kinds of predicate acts with facts roles. In other words, right on the campus's Facebook pages. They can't afford to have that discerned properly, so they've been changing it. Then the interbranch are switching names. The same ones had roles with criminal enterprises, plural private ones, and putting fake ties and fake natures of ties between campuses, including with private school kids planting evidences on public schools. Increasingly, there are ties to the ones that have putting fake things with those people too. Increasingly, private school kids involved with planting evidences with public school kids that had nothing to do with. They try, and some of them tried to make fake exceptions too. It shows them that we're using criminally foreign influence, creating exceptions to use criminally where they have roles with all sides of criminal and civil cases. The news at the same time and the court's names and the intelligence tied to them, foreign and domestic. And other at the same time, even names next to body dumping spots, untimely death rolls on off campuses. All that was made up. And with the news, because the news uses the right to lie, with the interbranch directs them to. Involved with all kinds of natures of identity theft, fraud, refusing to identify themselves roles. With the scams, legal scams at the places tied. to the interbranch, the state judicial branch offices, the state corrections offices. And where and how it was is already locked. Cases, all sides of cases, the names with that, the lawyers, their family members, the sources, the neighbors, different natures of conjunctions to themselves. And the same thing with the court's names. They were kept needing to hide the same sequence shifts, finite, grouped, and simultaneous lies, getting over on the hyper simultaneous. Black pupils, here, get them on paper, one name in sequence, please. They change and fake what we say. They will not identify themselves legitimately. They attach me to fake conversations with the Weathersfield police as a kid and now as an adult. Ones I never even spoke with in my life. And at the police station, they do that, no. And the kids who did go down there, they gave affidavits about how they forced them to put fake things in databases. And they're also recorded increasingly collusions with overt criminal enterprises. Those kids, their family members, and the police forms, and the courts putting fake things in databases together with a whole bunch of other countries too, in other ways, and their extended family members. Their uses of people's other natures of conjunctions to everyone. You know, fake conversation. Increasingly, people with religious spots. Then they pretend you're being mean about religion. You know, they're the ones that are supposed to keep their mouths themselves separate from religion. Not supposed to over the hate. They're jumping in sequence shifting. They're jumping in forcing quality of action nature that's leaving out exception nature, as nature is so showing us to appreciate it because they're fake. Increasingly, the people have roles with saying or doing whatever to bring things before courts per the method that keeps and needs the courts, the police forms, and interbranch families. At the same time, with overt criminal enterprises, plural, private ones, and all those different countries next to the campuses, and their extended family members, people need to hide life aggressions. It uses them remotely with their factual nature, quality aspects of nature, as it did since before computers from abroad, through other nations from abroad too, individually grouped it together, used remotely by the breaching method. Black pupils. Get them onto paper. Follow mandated course at last. Vaccines. It will free all things. It will free the greatest means. One way redeems. So in other words, you guys just ignore what people say and keep talking because you came through sick campuses. Well, let's address the proven child abusers, leaders of kids, and time rule /S with them. With the kids and adults, with the child abusers years apart, and the kids with those places too. These are location /S collusions. Every interstates, everywhere the species body is, all locations, areas, and states have been systems tactical ulterior from natures and have been self-valued roles with that. And with what it caused, blame on other things, others themselves. Well, that's not my job. You know, in other words, this is logic in nature that the breaching method showed you to self-value roles with, or to sense other people since you were the youngest kids, replacing principles from the youngest ages and having that respected. There's all kinds of behavior racketeering. A whole bunch of people next to Harvard Hospital are involved also with other medical campuses. Intelligence community is increasingly recording, confessing, demonstrating, confirming. The Harvard Hospital and other medical campuses had collusions with the World Trade Center attack. And they need to hide their roles with torture methods at Cuba too. But since before the World Trade Center attack, since before they put the Patriot Act, so they can pretend not to realize, that's the law. They have criminally foreign influence readings of statutes and precedents, sequence shifts with that we could observe, but we have to get them on paper. Lawyers of former police chiefs and a former FBI director, Robert Luskin, Robert Chevrolet, and other lawyers associated with him, and people next to their law offices involved with various natures of organized crimes, identity theft, fraud, slanders, corruption with the state capital of Connecticut, and next to it, their roles with medical offenders of kids, sexual and legal names interbranch at the same time, foreign and domestic military, whole bunch of nations at the same time. Why don't you just guys pick one name and sequence for the interbranch, or tell me who disbelieves, or say it to me my face. Tell me who disbelieves. See, the people who start doing that, then they start making things up, like a John Adams, like a Joshua Julian too. There are people with the name Adams on Facebook too, with the Joshua Julian on the Facebook page of a principal child abuser while he was being forced. Increasingly, there are people at Hartford Hospital involved with the Joshua Julian and confessed involved with them. And he's the one that's why he was trying to pretend he even used the word party. Oh, I partied with you. He's like, he used to hang around with my neighbor, the ones involved with the extended family member, like a name Phil Colo, further involved with various natures of abuses of little kids. Identity theft, fraud, slanders, fake ties, fake natures of ties to me. Since I was a kid behind my back, he has roles of predicate acts with facts with people on the judicial branch offices and the corrections offices and the campuses, putting predicate acts with facts in databases, including with proven child abusers, leaders of kids, and sexual and medical offenders of them. Increasingly, people on Two Route Highway involved with them, with a Dillon family and with the court's family members, involved with some Mendez police putting fake ties, fake natures of ties to kids at the Wethersfield Police Department too, into databases. See, these are people that answer the phones, with the news locations, where they have wire crime acts and methods with the agencies into branch and born at the same time. They're showing the need to change and fake what's digitally recorded. They need to change and just fake phone transcripts, etc. They need to hide how they read statutes and precedents regarding the validity of what's typed on social media and the value of it, the difference of that, the relativity of it, etc. To have them follow mandated law proper, you have to get them to identify themselves properly and get them on paper with the interbranch too. Get them on paper, because we're going to observe, it's hyper evidentially, there are whole crime methods they have where they prevent writing and put confessions tied to it. And they bring in more and more different narratives for the same police report, falsified police reports, and more names that weren't even involved with it and never had communications with the people, just to make up more things and lie about what the people say, regardless how they describe it. But it's not them alone. It's with the, but it's best not to understate it, and to get them on paper, one name and sequence. You can't, in other words, overt criminal enterprises and private ones, also grouped distinctly, also grouped in ways that is discernible, that can be used to show that the former standing chairperson on the Racketeering Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act, for example, he was as a nature used, criminally born influence. In fact, human nature quality aspects of nature, self-value sequence shifts, used to keep self-value, grouping and countering as collusion/S, with that most furthering and having furthered and made the worst use/uses of overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and terrorists, originally and still. And the difference of the guilt roles. The breaching method is increasingly needing to keep nature's demonstrations of itself, blamed on other things, others, ourselves. Nature has been demonstrating to us. Real science would have demonstrated to us. In other words, please get them on paper, one name and sequence. Judge Napolitano, I keep asking him on social media. I asked him on social media when he was with Fox News. They have obligations to respond to this. They're refusing to identify themselves while they're pretending other and putting more and more fake things in databases. Then they have the audacity to go up there and make complaints about people with repeated arrests. They're keeping collusion/S with names next to body dumping spots. They're keeping collusion/S with sick people at prisons. They reported, confessed, demonstrate, confirm their collusions with them. Their roles with forcing people On a mass scale, they put people on jail with charges and bonds too high to pay and lie about the real reason why. And not just stay until it becomes, hard to discern that. Only because they're preventing writing. And then when people are in jail, they're not going to allow them writing. That's how they do that. Sandy Hook campus is involved with people with a harassment charge, involved with putting charges, but putting fake evidences into databases and preventing people from countering with writing properly, and using all exceptions, criminally foreign influence, tactical delusions, raw too, and then lying about how that's discernible or not, pretending that we're supposed to go through processes and things like that. They know those processes and those names are already criminally involved. They also recorded all kinds of crime methods come down to them with criminally foreign influence, tactical delusions, raw readings of precedents and statutes. But and this is why on a mass scale they can't get on paper legitimately. And this is why the all exception nature shows that they self-value sick things taking place. While no one will self-evaluate and they don't, there are exceptions to that because it's the only way they can pretend to have integrity. In other words, and they can pretend passions and emotions and get away with it. When how they have dead-on collusion /S with all natures of organized crimes and the difference of them used by a breaching method that uses it right through them. Everything it does is through everyone else, including in all exceptions, show you guys sensing for the breaching method too. Someone tries to bring up black people's whites of eyes. Someone tries to bring up, what our founders communicated, how it's replaced. You guys are dishonestly, criminally foreign influence, factual nature, quality aspects of nature shown right there, including with silence. Let's get them on paper, one name in sequence. Otherwise, we're going to go deeper into because the FBI is recording themselves, demonstrating their methods. Their means and methods. Our criminally foreign influence, tactical delusions, raw. We're going to examine their roles with other agencies and police forms like CIA, brought up by Kelly Kaczmarek. I don't know at all. Buster her on Facebook, and Eric Jensen, also a bunch of ways recorded involved with former director of the FBI Robert Luskin and Whiting Forensics and state police along the Bone Turnpike with identity theft, fraud, slanders, people with Middlesex Community College. Involved with home break-ins in my area, with the DeMoro family involved with that. And a Ray Colo involved with wire crimes, falsified police reports, with the police, with the child sex offenders, and overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and his educators, with his conversations with the police, and with the schools putting fake things in databases together with them. And the people with the overt criminal enterprise, private ones, child offenders at the same time. Prepare your mind. You guys, you can't call the police. They're just fake. They're just fake and change what's recorded. They have digital crime acts and methods. There's an officer, Poison, further involved with digital crimes with a proven principal upskirt nature. That he forced that with his roles with other delusions, criminally foreign influence, factual nature, quality aspects of nature, and roles with others with digital crimes, and names switching and forging into branch with them, including next to the campuses doing the same. There's a Darth Vader. There's an officer that uses the Darth Vader. On a mass scale, they won't identify themselves legitimately. The FBI and the courts and their family members next to Central Connecticut State University in the Brink, Connecticut, next to Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut, before the World Trade Center attack. They have roles with former director of the FBI and the court's families and intimate ties. Intercities, non-office state judicial branch officers and corrections officers in Wethersfield with the same names next to the Trinity and next to Trinity CCSU, involved with prosecutors and judges planting evidences there before I went to those campuses. And more since. There's a Joshua Stryker, too, who was lying about himself and me into the campuses behind my back that I went to. and with the same girls. That he got to lie to my girlfriend with some girl who pretended she knew me, trying to make fake exceptions and fake motivations with it. Increasingly with people that I never had classes with, and that didn't even go to my grammar school. That were increasingly collusions with people from my grammar school, who are increasingly collusions with people that live next to the other schools I went before that even. And I went from one to sixth grade at the campus of the principal upskirt nature. And a principal, when I was there, his daughter is involved with people involved with that. Like a Kevin Harris is involved with some courts and some prosecutors and judges with sexual and medical offenders of kids. One's named Leahy, Lombardo, Kolvinskis, Violet, Eric Jensen, also with the intelligence next to Harvard Hospital, foreign and domestic, criminally foreign influence, and people on off campuses involved with predicate acts with them. All kinds of drugs and medicines crimes, and framing other people for it. Per the Harvard Hospital about these people, roles with them, and their educators, putting fake things in databases. And then don't get mad at me. These are people with this Joshua Julian too, on YouTube, typing things after he's already still rolls with the Facebook page of the principal upskirt nature as one of the ones that forced that. I want this Joshua Julian on paper with the other sources of Judge Napolitano that are they're recorded using and having used his sensibilities, forced to self-guide roles with collusions with Fox News before he left there, and with CBS and with WTNH and the FBI director Robert Lusky and his co-defendants. Thaddeus Grabowski is one of the ones next to Fox Connected News, involved with a whole bunch of people, directly and indirectly next to Fox Connected News, who have roles of predicate acts on my street, wire crime acts and methods roles from other areas, with the same house /S involved with multiple police departments and retired police chiefs and their intimate ties involved with the same house, and the ones involved with them, with the campuses putting fake things, fake ties, fake natures of ties to me. People, even ones at my age, I never even saw on campus in my life. They're putting fake ties, fake natures of ties to everyone on a mass scale. On a mass scale, there's identity theft, fraud, slander roles, needs, natures, and styles. They can't afford to have words, honest and proper by the Constitution, unabridged. Why and how we have rights that are too numerous to have to list them. Why and how we're supposed to have due process rights. Why and how we're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, even if they have something recorded. In other words, they're changing and faking the value, even if things are real recorded. All kinds of digital crimes and forensics crimes with Whiting Forensics since I was a kid, and demonstrably since before I was born. But through time, they increasingly have collusion /S at various natures of crime scenes, with people also involved with mayors and other natures of politicians who are also involved with medical and sexual offenders of kids, like with Whiting Forensics, involved with all kinds of medicines crimes. These are people drugging their patients, and sometimes, in other words, thank God I was in here long enough. I went, in other words, and otherwise they probably would have drugged me too. I had to fight not to. And the Sandy Hook had a guy, has roles further with the principal upskirt nature, and with some medical offenders of kids and people associated with Adam Lanza, the FBI, and the state judicial branch offices have collusion with. They have Alex Jones, also encounters to Alex Jones as a little shell game, black pupils. What are they doing in Sandy Hook, Newtown, leaking? Get them off the fake conversations with me onto paper, too. I want a response for the principal upskirt nature's confessions and what I caught them doing. And what they caught them hiding from the parents with other parents. There's ones with the name O'Neill who have their kids involved with them planting wire crimes at Whiting Forensics and fake motivations and collusions with Saudis, that they're forcing the Saudis. More and more people with the Wethersfield Police Department have Scalora families and others like foreign and domestic family members, all these different interreligious people, nutbags, and atheist themed collusions with different of it too, with identity theft, fraud, slingers, investigators, including military ones, planting sequence shifts, fake motivations, fake ties, fake natures of ties between people. There are proofs, fake transcripts too. Eric Burgess has roles with that. Sequence shifts, some picture he took on his phone, trying to play games. We were with little cowards. They makes the confessions. Emily, with before and after the World Trade Center attack, Harper Courts and the FBI have roles at West Harper locations, also with the Britain Superior Court people. I found out it's about the district court too. Increasingly, people with the state judicial branch offices and corrections offices of Wethersfield and people tied to mayors also have collusions with them at parks and with religious spots involved. It's important that you guys get them on campus. I mean, on paper, one name and sequence. There's a detective, Samuda, who's also one of the ones involved with some sexual and medical offenders and confessions of phone rape threats to an Elena Davenport, also involved with confessions recorded to my reported to my father about a rape of one of the DeMorals associated with Heather Hansen, but also with John DeMorrow. It recorded, confessed, demonstrate, confirmed, has roles with abuses of kids, and he said sexual too. In other words, years ago. These are also people that pretended behind my back that they knew me, to my family members, ones I don't know at all, and ones I only know as like I was tied to my 5th grade teacher, who told me to do a maze of a Joe DeMorrow. It's the only time I ever saw Joe DeMorrow on that campus, and that's the only time I ever spoke with Mr. Abruzzi. Increasingly, Mr. Abruzzi is involved with a bunch of people with Central Connecticut State University, also involved with different body dumping spots years ago, years apart, and the names next to them. Involved with different murderers and child abusers, leaders of kids, years apart. But they had time collusion /S with that. And with news predicate acts. News is increasingly being used to make fake examples of free speech, right where and how they know that's collusions with their wire crime acts and methods, and preventing people from getting a response and lying about their motivations for it. They're forcing, in other words, collusions. Fox Connecticut News and the intelligence next to them have roles with the intelligence next to WFSB also. And these are the sources of WTNH with places next to the state, next to the founding locations in Old Wethersfield. And and all the way from there, all along Wells Road, Route 175 through Newington, and then all the way to Central Connecticut State University in Britain, on all sides of it, are people involved also with conjunctions to that, who act and plan, and other people record fake things, and they have other people see illusions to put fake ties and fake natures of ties to people, as people involved with predicate acts on and off the campuses, and with my neighbors involved with the wire crimes of the police forms, switching names and forging names and refusing to identify themselves, and with people from other areas involved with them with untimely deaths and stacking predicate acts and fake identity thefts, fake ties, fake natures of ties to me at the campuses I went, fake motivations for it too. They're also replacing what's actually recorded 24/7 on campuses, recorded 24/7. Increasingly, get them on paper, one name and sequence, please. Lisa Valdez. In other words,